Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Spoop. And my camera auto-focused up. No, all right, whatever. So, this is a very special Halloween episode of Let's Talk Spoop, where I'm going to talk about how much I absolutely hate the Halloween timeline. So, this is Let's Talk Spoop and the totally messed up Halloween timeline. So, Halloween used to be my absolute favorite slasher series. More than Nightmare on Elm Street, more than Scream, more than Friday the 13th. I loved Halloween. I loved Michael Myers. I thought he was a fantastic killer. I loved his motivation. I loved the Rob Zombie remake, the first one, not the second one. But now I absolutely hate it, mostly due to the 2018 Halloween. We're going to get into it. So, first, we got to talk about the timeline of Halloween. So, we have what I refer to as the original timeline, which is Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween 6, 4, 5, and 6 being Return, Revenge, and Curse of Michael Myers, respectively. Then we have the 20-year later timeline, H2O, which branches directly off of Halloween 2, which is also followed by Halloween Resurrection. And then finally, we have the H4O, as CZ's World refers to it, Halloween 2018, the 40-year timeline, followed by Halloween Kills, and then Halloween Ends. And then out there in the ether, just kind of floating around, is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So now, original timeline. So the original timeline of Halloween, again, starts with the first Halloween. Just this random dude killing a bunch of people. Cool. Then they had to make a direct sequel. Their direct sequel gives us the story that Laurie is Michael's sister. And that is why he's obsessed with getting to her and killing her, because she is his family. We then branch on to Halloween 4, which follows Jamie Strode, who is Laurie Strode's daughter, and Michael's now after her because he has to finish off the family. 5 is just a continuation of that, and then 6 is where we get the back story, why Michael Myers is Michael Myers. And it's this ridiculously off the wall thing about druidic cults and the cult of the thorn and the demon of the thorn that is Michael Myers, who is being forced to supernaturally kill his family, which is not a bad background. It's also Paul Rudd, first starring role, fantastic. Love it, right? I love the original timeline. And then I have a personal headcanon that that background that we get in Halloween 6 feeds back into Halloween 3 because the plot of Halloween 3 was a druidic cult that was going to kill a bunch of people on Halloween in order to ensure a good harvest, to ensure their financial security. And that's what the Cult of the Thorn was about, right? And this was their original timeline, right? Connected all the way through with the exception of Halloween 3, except for my personal headcanon. But then we go to our 20-year timeline. So they managed to get Jamie Lee Curtis to come back. And in the original timeline, Laurie Strode died off camera in a car accident. And that's why we're following her daughter, Jamie, because Laurie is dead. But in H2O, Laurie's alive. And she has a son, and she's living in California. And Michael drives across country in order to come and try to kill her and her son in California. And so they decided that, well, now that we have Laurie back, we just are going to throw away that original timeline. Get rid of it. Get it out of here. And it hurts. but I was willing to accept it until I found out that the original script called for H2O to be a direct sequel to 6. That Lori faked her death and moved to California and got into a bunch of trouble and then cleaned her life up before becoming the dean of this prestigious private school. And it worked. It made perfect sense. But instead, they were like, no, get that out of here. We have to make a horror movie with Busta Rhymes. We have to make a Halloween found footage film starring Busta Rhymes. So I'm not happy about it. Because Halloween Resurrection is a travesty and doesn't deserve to exist. But that's beside the point. The point is they've messed up the timeline, and I'm not happy about it. And then we come to our 40-year timeline, the Halloween that my younger viewers and most people nowadays are more familiar with, which says, you know what? Forget the original timeline, forget all that story, forget that cult stuff. And you know what? Forget the 20-year timeline, the return of Laurie Strode and thankfully Busta Rhymes. Let's just get rid of that. But you know what? We're going to go even further. We're going to get rid of Halloween 2. We're going to get rid of the entire reason that Michael is hunting Laurie in the first place. We're going to toss that out. Forget it. And so we get that for whatever reason, Laurie has been prepping, doomsday prepping herself and her now daughter, who's not named Jamie and is not played by Josh Hartnett. Her name is Karen. She's been prepping her daughter because reasons. Because since they're not family, she has no real reason to believe that Michael's gonna come back for her. But he does. Mostly because Dr. Sartain, who is the replacement of Dr. Loomis, manipulates things in order to make that happen. Which I was willing to accept that. I was like, okay, I'm not happy. I'm not happy they threw away another timeline. That they threw away what is hands down the best Halloween movie, which is Halloween H2O. Then they threw it out. But I was okay with it. I was all right. I accepted it. And then we get Kills, where Michael is still going after Laurie and her family. But now there's no reason for it. Besides, maybe he's a little upset that she survived. Possibly, but that's never friggin' explained. He's just doing it. And there's no reason for it. But on the other hand, Halloween Kills did have something that I feel like slasher films really need to go more in depth on, which is the effect on the town. So I did enjoy that aspect and I enjoyed the violence in it. Halloween Kills had some amazing scenes, but it doesn't make any friggin' sense because there's no reason for Michael to be after Laurie, except that he's angry. That's it. He's killing a bunch of people, going after Laurie and her family for just the reason that he's a little upset about it. So then we finally get to Halloween Ends, which is right now the final movie in the entire Halloween franchise. And again, Michael's after Laurie and the family. But Laurie's not some random babysitter anymore. He has no reason to specifically hunt her down. When he's killing in Halloween 2018, Halloween H40, thanks again to CZ's World for that name, there's nothing. There's no reason for him to go after Laurie besides the fact that he was pointed at her. But he's not pointed at her in Kills. He just decides to go after her. And it makes no sense. They made the decision to get rid of the connection between Michael and Laurie. But then they didn't have an explanation for why he's still going after her. So it makes me unhappy. And the worst part of this is there's no reason for them to have done it this way. They could have just tacked it on to the end of Resurrection and been like, hey, he's not really dead because Michael never really dies. They already did it once where Laurie literally chops his head off at the end of H2O. I think it's focusing on a ghost in my house. Literally cuts his head off at the end of H2O. And then he's still alive. Like we watched it happen, and he's still alive for Resurrection, which we knew was coming already because it was contractually obligated. So it was real simple. They didn't have to do that. All they had to do was bring back in Josh Hartnett, who might not have wanted to do it, or another actor that looked close enough to him but aged up, and said, here's Laurie's son. Or she also had a daughter. They didn't have to get rid of the existing plot line to make the 40-year timeline. So now I present to you, let's talk Spoop's corrected Halloween timeline, which, as you can see, brings us back to the original timeline. Halloween, Halloween 2, where Michael goes into hiding after the hospital explodes for a bit. Halloween 4, where he comes back now pointed at Jamie because, as far as he knows, Laurie is dead. Halloween 5, which continues the chasing of Jamie. And then Halloween 6, where he's trying to kill his grandnephew, daughter, sister's daughter's son, second nephew. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But he's trying to kill off the last of the bloodline, right? While at the same time, the Cult of the Thorn is running around doing things, trying to get the next Michael, who's also going to apparently be part of the Strode family, right? Original timeline. Then we get to H2O, which, as they originally wrote and did not need to get rid of, but chose to do so anyway, turns out that between 2 and 4, Laurie faked her death, ran away, left her daughter to fend for herself because she knew that this madman was going to be after them if she didn't. Runs away to California, starts a new life, has a son, who she then has to defend from Michael. And then Resurrection that falls immediately after that, or you know what? In my corrected timeline, Resurrection doesn't need to exist. Found footage Halloween does not need to exist. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Following on to that, we go to our 40-year timeline, our 40 years later movie. And in this, instead of it not acknowledging any of the previous movies besides the original, you just say Laurie also had a daughter. That's simple. And then you get kills, and then you get ends. There you go. That's how Halloween should be done. Should have been done. There was no need to rewrite the timeline multiple times. Unnecessary. And then overarching it all, Season of the Witch, because it has that backstory of Michael having gotten his powers due to this demon of the thorn and a Celtic ritual all feeding back, and it could have happened at literally any time. The only reason that Season of the Witch cannot be in the Halloween timeline is because there is a snippet on a television set of somebody watching the original Halloween. That's the only reason. I don't think that's a good reason. That's just an Easter egg. You can put Easter eggs in anything. Just because there's an Incredibles figurine in Finding Dory doesn't mean that Finding Dory and The Incredibles couldn't take place in the same universe. Same thing here. Same thing. You'll also notice that I did not touch on the remake timeline because the remake timeline is a remake. It is its own separate thing. It's like saying that the Nightmare on Elm Street remake also is a sequel to the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which wouldn't make any sense because it's a complete remake of the original film, as opposed to the Evil Dead remake, which actually could have taken place in the same world, universe, right? But that's a whole different thing. Maybe someday I'll talk about the Evil Dead franchise. Who knows? But yeah, that's it. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for checking out my Halloween timeline video. Happy Halloween. If you stuck with me through the whole video, I appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about everything that I had to say about my rage. Tell me why my rage is misplaced. I would love to know it because right now it feels so right to be so angry about this. Yeah, thanks. Bye.